What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor, man.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the most interesting weeks of 2023 for Singapore.
Yeah. I mean, take aside July lah. July was an anomaly.
July was unforeseen interesting weeks.
Yeah. This one we knew this was gonna happen at some point. But yeah, it's still one of the more interesting weeks for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure people may not have thought this week would actually be as interesting as it is now, because back in June, when Taman first came forward, the biggest question was, will there actually be an elected election?
Yeah.
Then George Goh came, then Tan Kin Lian, then Kok Song, then Tan Kin Lian.
Yeah.
So so it's an interesting week lah. But interesting. Like, do you what state of emotions are you at right now?
We're about halfway through hustings, right? Halfway through, and week one of hustings. Already saw a lot of controversy and things, and the great things was that we got to talk to two of the presidential candidates, I think there are things happening in the whole process that are making people a bit nervous, right? Nervous and a lot of disquiet about everything. Myself included also. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling about it. I'm really not entirely sure what the next week will bring. Whether it's more controversy or more things, or just more of the same, right? But I mean, that's the thing. More of the same has meant more controversies and more strange things happening.
So you're feeling uneasy?
Yeah, feeling a bit uneasy. Yeah. I've just been very blatantly going around asking people, hey, who are you voting for? Who are you voting for? At social gatherings. And people give me a look. But at least I'm able to get a sense of what people are thinking.
But generally, you have to break down how many people actually give you an answer, or how many people kind of politely indicate for you to fuck off out of 10. Like,
everyone gives an answer. Everyone gives an answer.
Everyone give an answer.
But you just need to coax it out of them a little bit.
Oh, so no one hid it from you.
No one hid it from me. And I also, I think it helps that I'm also honest about how I'm feeling about it also.
So you start first, you offer the info first.
Yeah.
That means where you're at right now.
Yeah.
Who knows what the next few days might turn into.
Correct. I mean, it's kind of like before our podcast and after our podcast with Tan Kin Lian. I think our feelings about Tan Kin Lian and all that changed also, right? For better or worse, we will decide later. But definitely changed, and I think it also changed for a lot of people. Yeah. How about you? Like, where are you at?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm uneasy. It's more like, regardless of what I'm thinking of voting for, I feel the result is going to be one way.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. I know some people, I don't know, your unease comes from like the uncertainty or just the state of things?
The process.
Oh, the process.
The whole process.
Okay.
As in, I think, like you, I also don't think there's a lot of surprises coming in terms of the result. And I think the last time we talked about it, like, I'm more concerned about, is anyone losing the election deposit? That's the bigger thing for me.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, we can unpack that the moment when we start talking about the first topic, which has to do with the election.
Yes.
But before we get started, what is the things we like to say, Terrence?
Well, if this podcast has been interesting for you, or if you're even new here, first time listening to this, welcome. But to really keep the flame going and keep the fire going for Yala, but it will really help if you follow, like, or subscribe to us on all our social media channels, on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. That would really help us a lot and keep us motivated to keep doing more of these.
Yeah. And if you're listening on Spotify now and you haven't given us a rating, just open the app, just click on whatever rating you think we deserve. That also helps. And if you want to work with us in whatever way, shape or form, you can reach out to us via social media or just email us at contact@ministryoffunny.com. All right, sweet. Okay, so let us dive into PE 2023.
Yes.
I mean, the one thing that like that one news title or newsworthy thing that we wanted to focus the discussions on was the recent announcement that as of August 27th, which was this past Sunday, that Cheng Bock has come out to endorse Tan Kin Lian alongside another Tan Ji Se.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these three were fighting against each other back in 2011. La.
Yeah.
And they lost out to another Tan. La.
Yeah, Tony Tan.
Tony Tan, yeah. So as I saw, people appropriately coined these three as the Triton.
The Triton.
Yeah, like Titan, yeah. The Triton candidate.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, basically they came out very publicly. They were both seated at some a doorstop interview. And they were asked questions also, which like Tan Kin Lian, I think one of the questions he asked was, does he think that this would affect his candidacy in the next GE?
And
right.
PSP, his party, Progress Singapore Party's results are right. Next general election.
Yeah, correct. And off the back of that, Kok Song has kind of come out saying that, if other candidates are endorsing, gang up to endorse Tan Kin Lian, it's worrying. So with all that floating around, like when you first saw this, like, were you surprised that the three Tans have come together?
I mean, we already knew Tan Ji Se was already doing it because Tan Ji Se was, I think, the seconder, one of the seconders for Tan Kin Lian. So we knew that he already had got together Tan Kin Lian, right? But it was a bit of a surprise because I think Cheng Bock had been teasing something for a while. He was teasing, he posted something on Instagram saying there is still one chance for change, ... And it was just a photo of him, I think, watching like elections on the TV, and then with some books in the background and stuff like that. So a lot of people were speculating, okay, he's using George Goh's campaign slogan, one chance for change. So does that mean he's getting George Goh? Or people are like, is he getting George Goh to join PSP to run in the general election 2020, whatever, right? So yeah, now we have our answer. No, he's not. He has come out and he's supporting Tan Kin Lian and endorsing Tan Kin Lian in his personal capacity in this election. So yeah, a bit of a curveball he threw there. Got everyone excited that it's not GG for George Goh in politics. But it's now we know that the three Tans have come together.
Yeah. And I mean, like, so why I found this interesting, I wouldn't say worrying, because as these hustings play out, right, like they're very different. Like there's Taman and Kok Song who are going down like a similar path-ish. Maybe some differences, but Tan Kin Lian is just going opposite in every way. I know Kok Song said he doesn't want to do posters and all because he feels it doesn't sit well with our goal of being a sustainable society. But for Tan Kin Lian, first of all, like to do this, and now his team is pushing the message. What?
One vote, three presidents.
One vote, three Walao. I mean, like it's almost ridiculous, that statement, but it is a very powerful statement, lah.
Yeah,
it's very powerful, especially if your starting point is like you have issues with the incumbent, or you want that to stop being this concentration of power, or you're just annoyed with the process, right?
Yeah.
And then also there was that AMA that Straits Times had, I think, to ask the presidential candidates anything. Kok Song and Taman were there, but Tan Kin Lian declined.
Yeah, he declined the invite.
He just declined, which is again like very left field. And I think since the last time we recorded also, Tan Kin Lian has come out and said that he believes the Singaporean voter would prefer a president and a first lady who are both Singaporean born, which is like a direct shot at both Kok Song and Taman's wives.
Yeah.
Or wives and fiance and wife.
Yeah.
So it feels like, wow, this is becoming like less of a 3-horse race and more like a 1+1 versus another one.
Now it's like, like there's 3 people sitting on one of the horses.
That's why. Tan Kin Lian was on one horse. Like, come, hey, Tan. Then they just fucking holding like some acrobatic pose or something.
The Tans are fanning out like in a circus like that. They're fanning out the horse.
Then their posses like around them, just okay, don't fall. Yeah. Then Kok Song very like like the whole like righteous kind of horse.
Yeah.
Taman is a horse supported by like a bunch of minions.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's something out of left field. People were not expecting, firstly, not expecting all his opponents from 2011 to, rise from the grave and then come and support him, right? But secondly, the idea of the president supposed to be above politics. You're supposed to be, beyond partisan politics, right? The idea that these opposition political figures, literally one of the founders of the founder of PSP, right? Founder of one of the opposition parties is endorsing him. Yeah, I mean, it kind of runs counter to what a lot of people think the presidential election is about. But how do you feel when you first heard about this three-headed horse that's being put together?
It feels a little unsettling only because this is clearly not about less and less about the president and his ideals and all that. It's more about everything that comes with that individual. And I do agree to a certain extent that this is becoming like a case of political parties against each other.
Yeah.
Which is a pity because if George Goh was in, it felt like it'd be at least more refreshing. Now it feels like, as much as Tan Kin Lian says he's not affiliated to any party, in some way he's shaping out to kind of be. Or like parties.
Yeah.
Then it becomes like, this is like a mini GE to a certain extent.
Yeah. But I mean, since you mentioned George Goh, didn't all the fuzzy math start there? The whole 5 times 100 million is equal to a $500 million company. Which that was, to me, was when the fuzzy math in this whole election started already, right? Like George Goh trying to justify his candidacy or his eligibility by like, I run 5 times $100 million company, so it's equivalent or even more complex than a $500 million company.
I think your analogy was like, you run 10 4.2 kilometer runs, you run a marathon, is it?
Yeah. Or you're running 10 2.4 does not equal army half marathon or what, right?
Correct, yeah.
But yeah, so in some ways, don't you think that what Tan Kin Lian is doing is, I mean, you think about it, these are people he fought with in the last election, but now he's managed to talk to them and get them over on his side. Isn't he doing what, a president is about, unifying people who maybe disagree with you or have competed with you even in the past and putting them under a common umbrella for a larger cause? Isn't that like what a president is supposed to be doing?
But that's almost like uniting people who already have a common enemy. As opposed to really bringing your enemy, and I say enemy in air quotes, under that same umbrella.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's very presidential of him to unite the Tans and be like, this shows my power of bringing people together.
But so if he got someone, let's say he got someone from PAP or the establishment to also endorse him.
Then I'll be like,
hey, this guy got something.
I got something.
So it's just a matter of who it is, specifically Tan Cheng Bock.
What do you think it showcases his ability to be the glue?
I mean, in some ways, when I first saw the picture of the three of them together, there's a thumbnail for the YouTube video of CNN reporting it where they're crossing their arms and holding each other's hands and shaking like that. The first thought that came to my mind was that the title of that very good movie from years ago, Three Idiots. Basically, I mean, these are essentially the three losers from the last election coming together.
Idiots and loser very different.
I know. Yeah. But let me finish. It's just I'm just saying it almost looked a bit comical, right? Oh, the three losers from the last election coming together. That was my initial impression. But just thinking about it, then the last election, the whole point of them running, the whole outcome of them running against each other was that they split the vote. They split the vote and they basically, I mean, essentially, probably a lot of people speculate that Tan Cheng Bock could have won if the vote wasn't split like that, right? Between the three of them. So now, actually, for the three of them to come together like that, it's a very powerful statement, right? It's like telling all those people who can remember or were there 12 years ago, if you voted for Tan Cheng Bock or Tan Ji Se, now it's your chance to vote for change via Tan Kin Lian under unified umbrella, because we all got, I mean, this is the message they're putting out there. We all got screwed over by the system and all that in 2011. And now is our chance to rectify that.
Because Tan Cheng Bock and Tan Ji Se are also not eligible to run this year.
Correct, yeah.
Because it has been more than 20 years since they last held the position which would get them automatic entry.
And I think even the amount of money also has been increased from 100 to 500 million, right? For private sector candidates especially.
Yeah, correct.
So they both wouldn't qualify anymore. And in some ways, they're saying, in fact, Tan Kin Lian, the next election, he won't qualify also.
Yeah, correct.
Because also 20 years, that 20-year period also will expire. So they are literally using George Goh's slogan, there is still one chance for change. Maybe that's the thing. They saw George Goh's slogan and hey, that's a good one. That's a good slogan.
Yeah, correct.
We gotta figure out how to use that for ourselves.
No, then Tan Kin Lian's symbol is also 5 people holding up like something, right?
Yeah.
Then
Mandala.
slowly he's unveiling who are the 5 people. I am one.
Yeah.
Tan Cheng Bock and Tan Say are the other 2.
Yeah.
Then got 2 more. No?
Yeah.
2 more to unveil.
The horsemen.
Yeah, the horsemen.
4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
No, but then okay, so one thing that I did find a bit weird also, there is this talk that's saying, like opposition leaders ganging up, yes, to endorse Tan Kin Lian is not good. And I think it hasn't been just him, right? Even Taman was saying something along those lines.
Yeah.
But for Taman, he also had public endorsements from people like Tomiko,
Kishore Mahbubani.
Yeah, but technically they're not like that front and center associated to political parties. Right?
Yeah. They're associated with the establishment, the government, but not necessarily the PAP only.
Yeah. And then like Ho Ching endorsed
Kok Song. Said that he's of good character.
He's of good character. So yeah, it feels like I guess because Tan Kin Lian is really like galvanizing the opposition.
Yeah.
Via the optics of it, even though if you listen to our podcast with him, he hates the word optics.
Yeah.
He even scolded Terence for bringing up optics like 2 minutes after he said he doesn't like optics.
Yeah.
So then it becomes like even if you look online, I'm seeing more and more people post stuff on Reddit or Facebook vouching for Tan Kin Lian. Even some personal friends who have posted not to say that they think he'll be a good president, but they also think he's being unfairly vilified. And I mean, in some way, like over the past few days, certain sections of our podcast have been shared online, especially the one where he expressed his views about certain aspects of the LGBT rights question. Newspapers have quoted us, which was cool to see. But that it's like people are zeroing in on these certain things that he has said. So it really feels like, wow, it is becoming more polarized. It is becoming, like what you said, if people who listen to our podcast, maybe people on the fence about Tan Kin Lian also, after listen to it, they either love him more or they cannot understand how he is even a candidate.
So, go back to what you said, then is it wrong for Tan Cheng Bock to endorse him, given that Tomiko's and Kishore Mahbubanis are endorsing Tharman openly, right? As a lot of establishment figures are endorsing Tharman. George Yeo, who was from the PAP, is a character reference for Kok Song also, right? So is it really that wrong for Tan Cheng Bock or Tan Say to endorse Tan Kin Lian?
I don't think it's wrong.
You don't think it's wrong? But you say you're unsettled. You're unsettled.
There are many things that are not wrong that unsettle me, Terence. Life is full of things that are perfectly fine but unsettle me. It doesn't mean that because it's not wrong, it doesn't unsettle me. I think because then it becomes like a case of opposition. Opposition is such a loaded word right now in Singapore, for better or worse. And it now feels like, Tan Kin Lian is like, you know what, I'm not going to come to your fucking AMA. I got my boys with me, Granted, they're all probably like, they're not like the Avengers assembling,
They're crossing their arms.
Crossing their arms.
Like
exactly. So do you think it's wrong?
I still struggling to see what's so bad, or that why it should affect Tan Cheng Bock's, Tan Cheng Bock standing, right, amongst people that much. I mean, Tan Cheng Bock they did ask him about the whole pretty girls comment and all. And I think he kind of said like, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's saying all this was out there. If the presidential election committee already found that he's of good character, good standing, and he meets all the requirements and they allow him to run, why should we judge his character further, right? Based on all these things. So a bit of a half answer to whether he even approves of the comments. The comments were made, right? That's a fact. It's not
and defended. The comments were made and defended.
Yeah, and they were not. It's not like people were maliciously making up fake news about him, or there was some element of that. Remember, I think there was a picture of him hugging his own granddaughter, Tan Kin Lian, hugging his own granddaughter, and then people making comments about him and pretty girls and stuff like that, which was kind of nasty. It's. I don't know whether people are so offended by Tan Kin Lian's comments that maybe they're overstating the optics of what Tan Cheng Bock is doing here, right? Endorsing a candidate. And he said it's my own personal capacity. It's not the PSP officially saying anything like that. Because you don't hear the Workers' Party coming out and endorsing anyone. In fact, Workers' Party has come out and I think they repeated that they think we should abolish the elected presidency entirely, because I guess they might think that it's not necessary and it's a
distraction,
right, from real issues. So, I still not fully convinced that what is it that terrible a thing that Tan Kin Lian comes out and endorses them. I mean, but people are saying it will affect his PSP standing in the public's eye in the next election and all that.
Maybe even that might be for the people who maybe philosophically stand with PSP and Tan Kin Lian, but now feel like, how can you vote for someone like Tan Kin Lian? Because a lot of people have that kind of like distaste.
Yeah.
For everything he has said and all.
Yeah.
But I mean, like when I was thinking about how did it reach this state where it really feels like this is Trump happening in Singapore. Didn't help that last week during the televised presidential speeches, Tan Kin Lian's one was cut short by a few minutes. Because he said some things that were inaccurate about the role of the president. But if you can't see it, to his supporters, they're like, wow, you are just cutting short the speech. And you watch it, visibly it is a lot shorter, right? So first he has that, then he decides to not come for the AMA. Then I was thinking, what could have led to this? And I think how there's a big focus on how, as the president, they can't do certain things.
Yeah.
The president's role is limited. The president, and that's a lot from the mainstream media, right? In some way, I think it gives people more freedom to vote for someone like Tan Kin Lian, just to go in and shake things up. Because you imagine if, like, let's say the role of the president was you can activate a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are thinking about voting for Tan Kin Lian now, just to send a message, go against, they probably might be less inclined because the role of the president is so powerful.
Yeah.
So now, in fact, diminishing the role of the president in some way is empowering, I feel, potential voters of Tan Kin Lian. Because it's almost like, okay, if we believe what is being said about how the president's role is you cannot affect policy, what's the worst that could happen if we put Tan Kin Lian inside?
Yeah.
Then,
and don't forget, sometimes some of the surprising things that we also gleaned from even our own conversation with Tan Kin Lian is that not everything he says is necessarily aligned to what opposition thinks about certain things.
Yeah.
Like he talked about Ride Out Road.
Yeah.
He talked about
the scandals.
the political scandals of the MPs sleeping each other and all that. And his views were actually different from what opposition MPs in parliament were saying, right? So it's not all like, I think painting it broadly as a broad stroke, like he's opposition, he's just opposition, I think it's also inaccurate. He's probably, it sounds to me he's more like anti-establishment per se, than necessarily representing opposition interests, right? So yeah, that's where now there's a lot of game theory going on, right? People are saying the presidency, the powers of the presidency have been like what you said, reduced so much that it almost doesn't matter.
What does it matter?
Even if we put a clown in there, like, what does it matter? Like, okay, people maybe internationally might make a fool of ourselves, but other than that, like, why does it even matter, right? Whereas on the other side, you also hear Tan Kin Bock saying, I hold the second key. You want my money?
Tan Kin Lian.
Oh, Tan Kin Lian.
Hey, dude, don't confuse me about the tans, man.
A lot of tans. Too many tans. But he's saying these things as well that, like, even for us, we're like, does that president really have that kind of power and influence, right? So, yeah, at this point, there's a lot of game theory going on, and it's what I thought would be a very clear, outright election result is kind of like, changed quite a bit from like day one, right?
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of focus on Tan Kin Lian. But before we get that, Terence, what is game theory for someone who might not be the most familiar of the term?
I mean, it's a concept in economics, right? Where it's sort of like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like there's a lot of, every decision you make within when you play a game or something like that, it has certain pros and certain cons, and also it depends on how you think other people are going to make decisions in the process, right? So I'm saying that there's a lot of game theory now because that I'm hearing things like I'm reading about things like people saying, like what we mentioned earlier, like president doesn't even have real powers anyway. So what's I'm just going to vote as a big fuck you to the establishment and all.
Yeah.
Then people are saying, but he's representing us in international arena. Do I want him there representing me, out there? And then there are people saying, essentially what Tan Kin Lian is saying is, one chance for change, right? After this election, who will be the next candidate, non-establishment candidate that could possibly pass all the requirements, and then also want to run for president, right? So that's what they're billing it as, one last chance for change, right? And so there's just so many things, in the if you are still on the fence about voting, that you have to think about, right? Like who and why you want to vote for certain people. Yeah.
I saw someone who is an endorser for Kok Song also come out and say something about the how having opposition parties endorse is not healthy. And ironically, he's the founder of Second Chance.
No, and he wanted to run the last election, right?
Yeah, correct.
Against Halima, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of chances being muttered. A lot of chances.
Yeah.
So then
so he doesn't want one chance of change. He wants a second chance.
He's not the last. There might be a third chance. Yeah, okay. This is not last chance. Yeah.
No one chance. Second chance.
Second chance. Exactly. No, then like the thing about right now, the news is focused a lot on Tan Kin Lian. It's it's again too similar to Trump that I find unnerving. But what do you think of how it's been going for Kok Song and Taman? Because you said something about a process that makes you unsettled, right? Why? Why so unsettled, Terence?
Yeah, I mean the truth is that Tharman and Kok Song are seen much more as part of the establishment, right? So I'm just seeing things that Tharman is saying out there as well about. I think he add his points about the LGBT changes to social norms and all that in LGBT community, LGBTQ community. Sorry. Then Kok Song has also said things about the importance of guarding the reserves and all this which are what you would hear from the establishment, right? These are things that we have heard from the government, and also we are now hearing from the candidates and all that, right? But at the same time, everyone is really emphasizing the independence of mind that they're pitching, right? To be honest, right now, the only one that I know is really speaking entirely his mind is Tan Kin Lian. I can't say 100% for the other two also, but 100% for Tan Kin Lian, he's just saying what's on his mind, right?
Yeah.
And that's where maybe a little bit of the unsettling feeling that I'm getting is like, is it that the PR teams or the people who are managing the campaigns for the establishment figures are not sensing what it is on the ground, that maybe there's a lot of pent-up frustration and disquiet amongst people about how things have been, right? Maybe really addressing the idea of the independence and all that should be a priority, rather than just about the personalities of these people and what's their favorite hawker food, or tell us how you met your wife and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So that's why I find, at the end of the day, they're doing a lot of media, they're doing a lot of interviews, all that. But I think a lot of them haven't really gone in depth into people's track records. Not patting ourselves on the back, but I'm glad you also asked the question of Kok Song, like asking him about when did he stand up to the GIC board of directors and things like that, right? I don't think I've heard that a lot in other places, and that's something I also would love to have had the opportunity to ask Tharman, to ask, as part of the establishment. Literally 2 months ago, you were still part of the government, and you talk about independence of mind, right? But how do you plan to demonstrate that? Or can you show us an example of when you did that, right?
And we're still trying to reach out to Tharman's team. Still no dice, which is unfortunate. Because like you, I'm also okay. So the thing that is unsettling for me is, that feeling where over the years, when certain things happen in Parliament with the incumbent party, the decisions they make, like they say the things that sound nice, but how it feels is different, and it's difficult to define that, because feelings are feelings. But you keep hearing the top-down messages that, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and it's all well-intentioned. It's all good for the greater good, but it feels different experiencing it. right now with Kok Song and Taman, it kind of feels like that.
They're saying the safe things, right?
Yeah, which I mean, for better or worse, like I'm not saying I'm going to vote for Tan Kin Lian. I still think that certain things he said is so ridiculous that I cannot believe he said it. But I agree with what you said, that he feels honest.
Yeah.
And again, it is like what Trump brought to the table.
Mm.
You know, people who are speaking his mind, people who are speaking their mind and willing to say things that are almost politically incorrect, which the moment that becomes a badge of honor, that is worrying. Because you see all those videos of Kok Song and Taman. I mean, even the AMA Ask Me Anything was fucking lame.
Yeah.
Just the questions they asked, I'm like, how will you celebrate if you win? I don't give a shit how you celebrate.
Yeah.
Right. And then it becomes like, then what is going on there? And like everything you see, it's just like rehearsed. It's textbook presidential election.
Yeah.
A presidential candidate.
Yeah.
So that's where it feels like, then what are we going down? Then it becomes less about what they actually stand for, but more about the unsettling feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is worrying.
Yeah, to build on what you're saying, like the question from the SPH side of things about how you're going to celebrate your win. I felt when I heard Tarman's response, like, I'm just going to meet up with some volunteers and friends, and it's all about friendship and love. And those words came out from his mouth. I was like, this is one of the most brilliant political minds we have in Singapore, and he's here, talking about friendship and love on a national platform, and that's what he's going to do for the next 6 years, like friendship and love. I was like, God, he can and he should be out there, like flying the flag of Singapore, or head of IMF or World Bank or something. Like
so
that.
what's wrong with that answer?
Nothing wrong lah. I was just like, I guess this is part of being president,
you
right?
thought he'll go like C'est la vie, or like C'est la vie even open, or
No, nothing like that. As in, I feel like he's someone who's so brilliant, so smart, and still has so much to give, right? Like almost like him talking about friendship and love and all these things, like it's like almost like doesn't fulfill the full potential of what Tarman would have been, like, Whether everyone talks about like him having if he was PM or if he headed up the IMF or World Bank or anything like that, like would that be a greater contribution to Singapore than being president, like, right?
A friend said one thing, like, if you love him, you need to set him free.
Set him free. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's very poetic, but how we know? Maybe
wait, set him free meaning what?
To go on and do stuff that has more impact on the world.
President.
No.
Oh, that means don't be president.
So that he can go on to be chief of this, chief of that.
Yeah.
Which I felt like, that's an interesting way of looking at it. But there's no guarantee what he would do with that freedom.
Or just retire, right?
Yeah, just retire.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I for me, the bigger thing about that answer is like, is that really your answer, or is that like just the right thing to say? I mean, it's like, like if someone says, what will you do if you win $1 million? I'll donate all to charity. And like, which, I mean, it immediately casts some like, wait, really, you would do that? Is it just because like it's like a job interview like that?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I mean, it just feels like I think the person who's going to be impacted the most is Kok Song.
Yeah.
Because he's sounding too much like the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel people who maybe are voting to send a message, which I don't even know whether I agree on, still wrapping my head around that, they would vote for someone who more clearly sends a message. So, man, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just a weird few days.
Yeah. And I think feeling a bit unsettled about it is I don't know whether a lot of people already they know who they're voting for already, right? I think there's also a lot of what I'm hearing out there, right?
Do you know?
Do I know?
Because last time on the podcast we said something. We asked each other, right? Do you at this point know who you're voting for?
No. I'm not settled yet.
I think I was maybe a bit more settled.
Yeah.
Now I'm not.
I'm not settled yet. But the unsettled feeling is, I think that's the swing votes, right? That we're talking about to decide if anyone is going to lose their election deposit, right? So yeah, it's going to be an interesting few days, and do you think there's any possibility that any one of them will change course radically in how they conduct themselves the next week or so?
I don't think so. I think they'll just be doubling down on what they've been doing, which means that Tan Kin Lian might be even more off the rails.
Yeah, Tan Kin Lian has been not say changing course, but there hasn't really been a very clear course, right?
Yeah. It's like those videos, of Tour de France where you see people going zigzag down the mountain. He's just, fuck it, I'm just going to go on the grass. Just go all the way.
As long as it's downhill, I'm going.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. As long as it's downhill. And just it'll be a bumpy ride, but you'll get there fast.
Yeah, because the sense I get, is that the machinery is really moving really for the Taman and the Kok Song trains. I don't think there can be any very drastic change of strategy or anything now, right?
Yeah.
Whereas on Tan Kin Lian's ones, I feel like every night probably there's like a 9 p.m. meeting.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe we should try this, and then tomorrow next thing.
Because I don't know whether he's still doing the live stream at 9 p.m. Right?
Yeah.
But about speaking about the machinery, I think it was the Straits Times yesterday, the one you brought in the copy to the office because we were mentioned.
Yeah.
That was which day?
That was from Saturday. Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah.
So Saturday, like the Straits Times coverage of what the three candidates were doing, it just looks a bit like Taman had like
full page.
Almost full page, and Tan Kin Lian and Kok Song had like half pages
Yeah.
Which you look at it also, you're like, is that fair? And I think yesterday I saw on Reddit people posted that it's a bit more balanced Each get a third of a page.
Yeah.
So then it feels like those sort of things also at this point in time where there's growing anti-establishment sentiment, this media needs to be careful as well. And I think it's stuff like that could polarize people even more because it is being discussed on Reddit.
Yeah.
I mean, even for us, I'll say again, we would love to invite Mr. Taman on, but his team hasn't accepted our invite, which makes us feel as though we've interviewed two already. It'd be nice to have the third candidate. But, I mean, we never know. We never know.
Yeah. And we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, the machinery is really it's really moving. Maybe we're not part of those plans.
We're not part of the machine.
Yeah, we're not part of those plans. So get out of the way, right? Basically.
Yeah. Get out of the way.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is not going to be the last PE podcast we do.
Yeah.
It's the start of the week.
Yep. Who knows what will happen? Still
who knows?
4 5 days. Yeah.
We will do a midweek one and we will do one maybe post-elections.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
But we will respect cooling off day, right?
Nothing cooling off day is on Thursday.
Thursday, nothing. We can't post on Thursday.
Yeah, cannot post on Thursday.
Yeah,
correct. Cannot post on Thursday.
That's right.
Okay, cool.
But speaking of cooling off, right? There are a lot of rising temperatures in the region about something that one of the not say neighboring, one of the countries in our region is doing or started doing last Thursday, I believe.
Thursday.
That has caused a lot of disquiet, not only amongst their direct neighbours, but in our local Japanese restaurants in Singapore also, right? And what is this? Who is this country and what have they done?
The country is Japan, and as of 1 p.m. on August 24th, which was last Thursday, the Tokyo Electric Power Company, known as TEPCO, has started releasing nuclear wastewater containing radioactive elements from the Fukushima earthquake back into the Pacific Ocean.
Ooh. Ouch.
Yeah. And I mean, another thing that ties both our first and second topic is we're talking about stuff that happened back in 2011.
Oh, is it?
The 4 tons?
Yeah. But was it 2011 Fukushima?
Yeah, Fukushima.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the earthquake and tsunami that hit in 2011.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, what a coincidence. So basically, I think I heard of this earlier in the year when there was plans already that it was announced in April that there were plans in August to start re-releasing it back.
Yeah.
And the reason is because since the earthquake, wastewater has been generated because it's still been used to cool down the reactors.
Yeah.
And now they're at 98% capacity of holding the tank that holds the wastewater. So they need to discharge it.
Yeah.
But they are discharging it so slowly that it would take 30 years to completely discharge everything.
Yeah.
But even with that happening, like in Singapore, I think when restaurants were interviewed by Shinmin Daily, they said they have experienced an increase in number of diners showing up to eat sashimi. And this was as of Friday.
Yeah.
So I think people, there has been mounting talk of like, oh shit, this is previously radioactive water being released into the oceans.
Yeah.
I know China has kind of
protested.
Yeah, protested. They have reduced their import of Japanese food. And Korea, I think
they banned or at least temporarily
that all
banned it.
will be halted.
Yeah.
Until further notice, correct. On 24th August, there was a press conference. China's foreign ministry spokesperson said China strongly objected and condemned Japan's decision to release the wastewater into the sea. But Korea a bit more chill.
Yeah.
So when did you first hear that they're going to release stuff into the water?
1-2 weeks ago maybe.
Did it hit you like, oh fuck, I need to eat all the Japanese food again?
No, but coincidentally this past week and literally even yesterday, I've eaten Japanese food like twice, which is not normal. Usually I eat like maybe once a month or something. But literally in 1 week I ate
You're
it
one
twice.
of those diners lah. Subconsciously you're like,
subconsciously like, must eat Japanese. I don't know why. Suddenly feel like
primal desire.
Yeah. No way. I mean, it's like what we're talking about in the first topic. Feels unsettling because we know that there's a lot of things that we humans are doing to the environment that is irreversible. You feel it every day in the weather and the crazy weather, things, weather patterns and all that these days. This feels like, do we really need to do this now? And like it is irreversible. Not say irreversible, but it will have an impact on the environment for sure, right? Because to be fair, they have run the water through some filter that removes some of the radioactive particles. A lot of it. But there's still one particular particle that cannot be removed by
the
this
tritium,
filter.
Is it?
Yeah, tritium. What's it called? Yeah.
But according to tests done a lot by TEPCO, that the tritium concentration was 43 to 63 becquerels per liter, which is significantly lower than Japan's national standard of 60,000 becquerels per liter.
Yeah.
And the country's self-imposed release standard of 1,500 becquerels per liter. So the thing is, it has passed all the tests.
Yeah.
Even the Singapore Food Agency said they are constantly monitoring. They're not going to reduce the import, and they're still going to import seafood from Japan after the release.
Yeah.
One thing I learned is that as of April 2023, apparently over the past 10 years, Japan accounts for only 1.5% of the food imports.
Oh, in Singapore?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Of which Fukushima is a subset.
And fish, it's mostly fish or
what? They never say.
Oh, they never say. Okay.
Yeah, what other Japanese stuff is there?
Snacks.
The cheese biscuit, is it?
Ramen, everything.
Oh, ramen, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, they never say.
Rice, Japanese
they
rice.
Never say.
Yeah.
So you feel a little unsettled. You think it would subconsciously sway your decision to eat Japanese food, say, a few months down the road?
Possibly, yeah. It might. I won't admit that. I will admit that it can be logical at times, right? But maybe because the Fukushima thing it's not that long ago, right? It's 12 years but it's still very fresh and a lot of adults can remember that whole thing. It was kind of scary. And recently Netflix, I think they released a limited series about the whole Fukushima thing, a drama, like a bit like in the style of Chernobyl, but it's called The Days. And I watched maybe about half of it before I lost interest. But the half of it showed that there was a lot of human complacency and human error involved.
Oh, is it?
Involved in some of these things. So when the government officials are telling you that everything has passed tests and all that, definitely emotionally there'll be some part of you that's feeling like, really? Not based on what I watched or read about in the news, right? So yeah, that's where I think, and then you're hearing China making very, very strong statements, calling Japan selfish for nuclear waste pollution and the human race and everything, making it a matter of the human race, right? It's not even about countries or China doesn't like Japan and stuff like that already. So yeah, definitely I think we'll be affected and I am part of that as well. I will be affected by that. I don't think I'll
be affected.
Yeah, I know. You always like to state that you always go against the norm one. That's normal for you.
No. You could argue that the norm is also to not be affected.
Is that the norm?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
But the thing is, because
I think you like to state like you're very brave in
fuck you lah. Okay.
Let's go back to the discussion about face masks, COVID and face masks. Anyone who's doubting what I'm saying, I'll send you the receipts.
Okay, then we can go to a few months after that when we were debating the stoppage of the usage of face masks, where I was for it and you weren't, and a few episodes later you came back and said, you know what, I retract my statement.
Yeah.
So we have both we've both been on both sides.
Yes.
But for me, this one the rationale is that, I mean, like so not to say I trust that everything is like kosher, like super sweet, you know. I think like right now, I mean, if you just so it's like, you know, like for restaurants, for anyone who knows people who work in restaurants, you sometimes hear the same thing like that. If you knew what goes on in restaurants,
correct,
you wouldn't eat at restaurants.
Yeah,
I know that's a blanket statement. So maybe if you're working in a restaurant, you're like, hey, what the fuck are you talking about? Restaurants are super hygiene standards. I mean, even if you go to like a regular eatery or something, or even if you think about hawker stalls, right?
Yeah.
At night, right? You just imagine what happens behind the doors. Probably would make you not want to eat, lah. But we still go ahead and eat, lah, right? So this falls along there. I'm like, okay, in the like considering the myriad of things that we don't know go into our food, there's just one other thing. You know what? Fuck it. This might be immature. This might be totally naive. It might be believing that trace together will never be used to detect or for to share data. But that's where I'm at right now, lah.
A very pro-establishment view.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew, what was the thing you said? If you believe in like face masks being removed, you tend to support the establishment.
There was a survey.
What did it say?
The survey said that the people who are pro-establishment are the ones who, they were trusted the government, obviously trusted it. And the fact that you didn't need to wear face masks. Yeah, that was the survey.
Yeah, I know. That's why as I was going on my spiel just now, if you're watching on YouTube, you could see the glee in Terrence's face.
Yeah.
Right. But I still feel like at this point,
yes,
I don't think it will change my sentiment about Japanese food.
But what you were saying there about, that you go to any restaurant, is bound to have cockroaches, all these things. We literally had a researcher of cockroaches come in here. And we asked him that, right? Like, if you see a cockroach in a restaurant, is it really that big a deal and all that? And even he, for someone who researches cockroaches, said, no, if there are cockroaches, it points to a larger hygiene issue and all that you'd have to be careful about, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just like blanket say, every restaurant has like cockroach and all that, and so why should we really care? His point was that you should care.
Yeah.
And you should like report things if you see them and all that.
Yeah. No, of course. If we see it, we should report it. Same way in my house, if I see a cockroach, of course I want to fucking catch it.
Correct.
But every night I go to sleep, just knowing that, okay, there's probably some cockroach or lizard just around the corner. And I'm like, okay, what you don't see, does it matter? I know it's I wouldn't say that's my approach to a lot of things. But in this case, right, I don't think this would sway my decision to eat Japanese food.
But I see you're saying what you don't see. But now you know for a fact that there is the radioactive material literally being, released into the ocean.
But it falls under the standards of test, which I know what you're going to say. Is you trust the establishment. You trust the establishment. Then Terrence, how we get through life if we don't put a little bit of faith into these tests and like assurances of quality?
We get through life, like maybe don't eat so much sushi for a while, right?
Or
take air on the side of caution. That's what they're saying, right?
Take advantage of the shorter queue lines. For all we know, 1 year down the road, this might be another case where I look back and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? Because we are as a society, as a human race, we're now battling with radioactive fishes that are the size of buses, lah.
I mean, like fourth nipple started appearing.
Yeah, fourth nipple. Like, must be fourth. Must be fourth because I already have a third.
Because you've already publicly openly said it already.
Correct.
So fourth nipple come on and like, I shouldn't have eaten that sushi that time.
That's why. I'm like, shit, and this nipple talks and has like 4 fingers. And I'm like, fuck, this sushi was a bad idea. Yeah, so I don't know, because I remember a few years ago there was also these pictures of like sashimi, all the parasites that live in salmon sashimi.
Yeah.
That one visually it was gross lah. So that one I feel a bit more like, don't want to eat that. So this one is just one of those things that is too far removed for me to feel something viscerally lah.
Maybe, but that's why watching like shows like Chernobyl and even The Days, like, although I didn't find it that great, but they and this is quite interesting because we do this for a day job, like talk stories and all that. How do you make something that is essentially invisible but deadly, right? How do you show that on screen and make people feel it and fear it, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's where, I mean, for me, like watching Chernobyl was like quite an experience, right? And the fear of radioactivity and what it can do to your body, all that. I think seared into my mind, right? But for you, nothing, like you didn't feel it,
I didn't finish watching Chernobyl.
You didn't finish watching?
Only because when I first started, my wife wanted to watch it, but then we never got down to watching it. So I still haven't finished watching it yet. But I will say that the 3 episodes I watched, which were amazing, it does leave you with a very unsettling
and they
feeling
use,
inside.
they use that Geiger counter sound. It always makes you very unsettled.
Yeah, it's very unsettling.
Maybe that's your next date night, lor. You all buy sashimi and sushi from like the Fukushima region.
Specific from Japan, like freshly imported from Japan 2 days ago.
And watch Chernobyl.
Yeah, and watch Chernobyl. That's a great idea, Terrence. That is a fucking great idea.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, but I am curious, like even people who are listening, how much is it going to sway your opinion, whether or not to eat sashimi?
Yeah, and then we can even objectively measure if we really wanted to. Just check how long the queue takes at Sushiro every week. Like every week Saturday 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Just go there and measure how long the queue is and all.
But how many of these places actually get sashimi from Japan?
I think a lot of them do, yeah.
A lot,
because a lot of it is air flown, like the quality of it, and they really do a lot to maintain the quality. I've watched CNA documentaries about that, I think there was a documentary recently about how fresh is your sashimi, whether there'll be worms and all that in your sashimi, and they showed some Singaporean importers and distributors of like salmon, and it's really like what I said, like air flown and they brought in huge batches to Singapore and all that.
But like a article on Sake Sushi's blog back in 2021, why most of your fresh salmon you ate is not from Japan?
Because it's Sake Sushi. Why you choose the lowest end of the sushi?
It is the one that came up online lah.
Yeah.
It is the
about
one
higher quality one lah. Wow. Not the stuff that you ate as a poor student, broke
Why
student.
most of your fresh salmon you ate is not from Japan? Yeah, exactly. That's Sake Sushi.
Coming from a budget sushi chain, I mean, you also have to know where the source is.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Interesting. But
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, generally eating sashimi, there's always a risk, regardless, right? Because it is raw.
Yeah.
Right?
But you're not a big raw food person, right?
Sashimi I like. In fact, I like sashimi more than cooked fish. Yeah, I'm not a fish person.
Okay.
But I like sashimi.
So next week you will go and order takeout for this?
Maybe.
Yeah,
like it wouldn't stop me, or it wouldn't impact me that much.
Yeah. I don't think the price will plunge or anything, right?
Yeah.
I don't think.
I will say that I will maybe think about it for a bit more. I'll think about it. Okay, did I really want this? Because sometimes if you don't need to eat it now, is it urgent? Then you just wait and see.
Yeah, just wait and see.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll see. But I bet in the next few years, there is going to be some movie or TV show that comes out that points its roots towards this water release as a catalyst for radioactive monsters.
Yes.
Including a show that we have been is in the back of our treasure trove for a long time about this sea monster, right?
Yeah. So I think people, even after Fukushima, they already there were people who were raising a lot of alarm bells about
produce, right?
If you want to get pregnant and have kids, things like that, don't go near that region and stuff like that.
Do you go to Japan since then?
Yeah, I've been to Japan since then, but not to that region. So
I know back then the vegetables from Japan also were being put into question because the radioactive air, right?
Yeah.
So
radioactivity, very tricky.
Very tricky.
As in, like you can't see it. It's like that cockroach that lurks in your room, but you can't see it.
I wouldn't say in my room, Don't make it seem like my fucking house has this invisible infestation. I'm just saying that there is, you just know, especially if the trash thing is in your house, you know that you're just a wall away from like cockroaches, which I hate.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So I mean, we might do a poll on Reddit or something about whether people would see their choice affected or not about this.
Yeah.
So check us out on Reddit.
am I overreacting, or is Harish just being like
laissez-faire,
pro establishment?
Those two options, is Terence overreacting or is Harish pro establishment? Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly that.
Man, yeah,
Cool,
yes.
man. Yes,
Cool.
yes.
So now to talk about our
one shook comment and one shook thing.
Yes. What is your one shook comment?
My one shook comment is by longtime Redditor, Majestic Economist 6, who posted 3 days ago. Just a random post, not tied to any particular podcast.
Yeah.
But it did build on something that we mentioned during the podcast about the DBS outage. Not DBS outage. Was it DBS outage? The anti-scam OCBC. Yeah, correct. So I think we mentioned on the podcast that the head of fraud in OCBC, his name is Beaver Chua. And then we were talking about how, like, would you prefer have a colleague called Beaver Chua look over your banking stuff, or someone like Licky Chu or Otter Chan? And this Redditor took the liberty to use AI to come up with visual images of what Beaver Chua, Licky Chu, and Otter Chan look like.
Yeah,
fucking love
it. It's very cute, right?
I love it.
Yeah.
So well done, Majestic Economist 6.
Yeah.
I love it when memes like this come out from a podcast. Yeah, that was my one show comment.
Cool.
What about you?
My one show comment is on a YouTube, from the YouTube video that we interviewed on Kok Song. SAJC History 1246 says, excellent. Both of you are doing your part, like how the Daily Show does in Decision 20 whatever the year
XX,
for the USA. But I do hope you inform your faithful Yalabat listeners if or why not, reasons, official or otherwise, whether Taman is going to be on your show. So yeah.
Why is that your show comment?
No, I mean, it's pointing out that, I like the idea that we're doing our part. Right? I think we mentioned this the last time. It's like, I felt like it was like a civic duty kind of almost doing it. And I think I'm glad, people are appreciating that. And like you said, the media also is picking up on things that the interviewees said here. But yeah, I think this person's also very curious about the reasons why Tarman is or is going to be or is not going to be on our show, right?
We have tried.
Yeah.
We've tried through multiple avenues.
He's a busy man.
But no dice.
He's a busy man. Yeah.
Yeah, no dice.
Yeah.
No dice.
But yes. Anyway. Cool. Thank you for... Yeah, actually now the crazy thing is a lot of... I used to think that YouTube was all just short comments or just, angry commenters. But now there's a lot of people who are writing much longer comments about, especially those two presidential candidates that we interviewed.
Yeah, quite thoughtful.
Quite thoughtful, yeah, surprisingly. But I will also point you all, do check out Reddit. Reddit's a place where a lot of people are having interesting discussions as well.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Cool.
What about your one show thing, man?
I'm going to pull mine up.
Okay.
And yours is?
Yeah, mine is that this past Saturday, August 26th, the biggest search ever for the Loch Ness Monster in 5 decades has begun in the Scottish Highlands.
Yeah.
It's a mix of researchers and enthusiasts from around the world to try and track down the Loch Ness Monster. So it deployed drones with thermal scanners, boats with infrared cameras, and an underwater hydrophone that can just detect a whole bunch of stuff to detect unusual Nessie-like underwater calls. So I haven't heard the Loch Ness Monster be repeated much over the past decade or something, but growing up it was a big thing,
Yeah.
That iconic photo of the neck with the two other parts of the body sticking out of the water. And I just thought it's interesting. I've totally forgot this urban legend existed. So yeah, there've been a lot of talks about what exactly it could be. I mean, the more I read it, the more it feels like, it's just like I don't know how scientific it's going to be.
Sure.
But it just started this past Saturday.
It's just a community of enthusiasts.
And researchers. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Anyone from Singapore going? Does it say?
Not that I know.
Okay.
They quote someone from France.
Okay.
I mean, there's also the Loch Ness Center that is organizing it. And yeah, so it's the lake itself is 36 kilometers across with a maximum depth of 240 meters. So I mean, it doesn't feel like too huge a thing to cover.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long it will last, but it started on Saturday lah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, man.
I mean, quite in line with a little side project. Only it's a project that we're working on now. It's going to see the light of day soon, right? About supernatural things and urban myths and stuff like that. So yeah, watch this space for more lah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And what is your one shock thing?
My one shock thing is actually, this was recommended to me by a guest on our podcast previously, JD. It's a podcast called Spellcaster: The Fall of Sam Bankman-Fried. So it's actually a six-part podcast about Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX and how FTX came to be and basically the whole fallout from FTX, going belly up and all that lah. So it's actually quite a riveting listen about the crypto bros and all that. And how that whole culture and it's called Spellcaster for a very interesting reason also lah.
And you finished it?
I'm about 5 or 6 episodes in, but it's really like you can sit through the whole thing like quite easily.
So it's a mix of what, like interviews or narration?
Interviews and the talking to the journalists who covered the story and things like that.
And produced by?
Wondery.
Oh, Wondery. Quite an established podcast.
Very established, yeah. A lot of ads, but okay lah. I mean, it is what it is. So do check it out. Shout out to JD for recommending this.
Oh, nice. Cool, man.
Cool.
Sweet.
Okay, this is 1 of 3 we're doing for the election week now, right?
Run up to the end of PE 2023.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll talk to y'all soon.